Athens, 2006. A taxi pulls up outside a hotel on Singru Avenue. The paint is sun-bleached to the color of weak tea. The door groans on its hinge. And on the dashboard, under a cracked plastic cover, the odometer reads a number that makes the tourist getting in do a double take. 4,600,000 kilometers. Not 400,000. 4,600,000. The driver, an older man named Gregorios, doesn't make a big deal of it. To him, it's just a car. A 1976 Mercedes 240D that he bought used and never really thought about replacing, because it never gave him a reason to. Mercedes-Benz found out about the car eventually, flew him and it to Stuttgart, put it in a museum for a while, and gave him a new one as a thank you. That part of the story is well documented. What almost nobody talks about is why that engine was still turning over after enough kilometers to circle the Earth 115 times. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic German steel. It was a routine. A boring, repeatable, almost stubborn set of habits that a whole generation of diesel owners in Greece, Africa, and rural Germany followed without ever writing it down. Because to them, it wasn't a hack. It was just how you took care of a diesel. That routine is dying. Not because it stopped working, because the industry that sells you a car now has almost no financial reason to teach it to you. I'm going to give you the actual routine today. Not folklore, not diesels just last longer hand-waving. And I'm going to tell you honestly which parts of it still apply to a modern diesel and which parts belong to an engine design that mostly doesn't exist anymore. Music. Let's start with the part nobody wants to say out loud. Most of what kills a diesel engine early isn't the diesel engine's fault. It's what happens to it in the first 4 minutes after you turn the key, repeated 10,000 times over a decade. To understand the routine, you have to understand the engine it was built for. Mercedes OM619 and OM6119, the 4- and 5-cylinder diesels that powered the W123 through the late 70s and 80s. These were naturally aspirated or mildly turbocharged indirect injection engines. Simple, mechanically injected, no engine computer telling them what to do. That simplicity is exactly why the old routine worked, and exactly why it needs adjusting for anything built after roughly 2005. I learned most of this from a man named Stavros Antoniou, who ran a one-bay diesel shop near Piraeus for just over 40 years, mostly servicing taxi fleets. He didn't advertise. He didn't need to. Taxi owners in Athens found him by word of mouth because a taxi that's off the road isn't earning, and Stavros's cars simply didn't break down the way other shops' customers' cars did. When I asked him what the secret was, he laughed and said there wasn't one. There were 4 things, and he'd tell anyone who'd sit still long enough to listen. Here is the first one, and it's the one almost nobody follows anymore. The 2-minute warm idle. Modern advice tells you to start your car and drive off gently within 30 seconds. For a gasoline engine with tight modern tolerances and full synthetic oil, that's mostly fine. For an older diesel, and honestly for a lot of modern diesels too, that advice is quietly grinding your engine to death. Here's the mechanism, taught plainly because this isn't folklore, this is basic tribology. Cold oil is thick. At low temperature, oil doesn't fully migrate to the top of the cylinder walls, the wrist pins, and the upper bearing surfaces for the first minute or two of running. A diesel's compression ratio is roughly double that of a gasoline engine, somewhere around 18:1 to 22:1 versus 9:1 or 10:1. That means the forces clamping metal against metal under load are dramatically higher, at the exact moment the lubricating film is thinnest. Load the engine hard, climbing a hill, flooring it to make a light, and you're grinding partially lubricated surfaces together under enormous pressure. Do that every single day for 10 years and you've shaved years, maybe decades, off the engine's working life, one morning at a time. Stavros's rule was simple. 2 minutes of idle before the car moves, every single cold start, no exceptions, rain or shine. Not revving, not driving gently. Sitting still, At idle, letting the oil pump circulate warm, thin, flowing oil to every surface before the engine does any work at all. 2 minutes doesn't sound like much. Multiply it by 2 cold starts a day, 300 driving days a year, across a 15-year ownership. That's roughly 300 hours, 12 and a half full days, of protected low-load warm-up spread across the engine's life versus an engine that got 0 seconds of it and went straight to load on cold metal every single time. That difference compounds. It's the difference between an engine that's tired at 300,000 kilometers and one that's still tight at 900,000. Music. The second habit is about oil, and this is where the routine and modern marketing directly disagree with each other. Full synthetic oil is genuinely excellent for a modern, tight-tolerance engine designed around it. But older diesels, and a surprising number of the diesel pickups and SUVs still on American roads today, were designed around conventional or semi-synthetic mineral oils with specific additive packages, particularly high levels of zinc dialkyl-dithiophosphate, or ZDDP, for flat tappet camshaft and injection pump protection. When modern low-ash, low-ZDDP oils became standard, largely driven by emissions equipment compatibility, not engine longevity, a lot of older diesel and high-mileage engines started seeing accelerated cam lobe and lifter wear that simply didn't show up in the original engineering data. Stavros ran his taxi fleet on a straightforward, unglamorous 15W40 diesel-rated oil, changed at intervals that would make a modern service advisor wince. Every 5,000 kilometers, not the 10,000 to 15,000, the manual eventually crept up to as manufacturers extended intervals to make ownership costs look lower on paper. Shorter intervals mean the oil never gets the chance to break down and lose its ability to suspend the microscopic soot and carbon that indirect injection diesels produce as a matter of course. Diesel engines make dirtier oil than gasoline engines, full stop. More blow-by, more soot loading, more acid formation from sulfur in the fuel. An interval built for a gasoline engine's oil chemistry, applied to a diesel, is a slow sludge sentence. I'm not telling you every modern service department is lying to sell you oil changes. Longer intervals genuinely work fine for some engines with the exact oil formulation they were designed around. What I am telling you is that the manual says, and what actually protects this specific engine for 900,000 kilometers are not always the same sentence, and nobody in a dealership is financially motivated to explain the difference to you. Music. The third habit is the one that takes the most explaining because it involves a part almost no modern owner has ever heard of, the injection pump, and specifically, keeping its timing correct. On mechanically injected diesels like the OM6116 and OM6117, fuel delivery timing, exactly when and how much fuel sprays into each cylinder, is set mechanically on the injection pump, and it drifts slowly over tens of thousands of kilometers as components wear. Timing that drifts even a degree or two late causes incomplete combustion, more soot, more unburned fuel washing down the cylinder walls and diluting the oil film, and more heat stress on the pistons. Timing that drifts early causes knock and excess cylinder pressure. Stavros checked injection timing with a simple dial gauge on the pump every 40,000 kilometers or so. A 15-minute job, cheap, mechanical, nothing electronic about it. Most owners never do this even once in the life of the car because most modern injection pump in their entire career. It's not that the knowledge is secret, it's that it's genuinely disappearing, the same way knowledge of carburetor tuning disappeared once fuel injection took over. If your engine is a modern common rail diesel, this specific step doesn't apply to you the same way. Injection timing on those engines is managed electronically by the engine computer, adjusted in real time. That's a meaningful difference, and I want to be honest about it rather than pretend one routine fits every diesel ever built. What does carry over is the underlying principle. Fuel delivery accuracy protects the engine, and it's worth having your injectors tested and cleaned on a schedule rather than only when a warning light forces the issue. Music. The fourth habit is the simplest and the most commonly ignored. load management on a cold or lightly warmed engine, specifically around towing, hauling, and highway on-ramps. Diesel torque comes on low in the rev range, which tempts drivers into short shifting and loading the engine hard at low RPM to save fuel. On a fully warmed engine with good oil pressure, that's actually efficient and gentle. On an engine that's only nominally warm, coolant temperature up, but oil and internal components still below full operating temperature, which on a diesel can take 15 to 20 minutes of actual driving, not just 2 minutes of idling. That same low RPM, high load pull is one of the hardest things you can ask of an engine. It's the driving equivalent of asking someone to deadlift their max weight 30 seconds after waking up. Stavros's rule for his drivers: no hard acceleration, no highway merging at full throttle, and absolutely no towing or hill climbing until the coolant gauge reads fully warm and roughly 15 minutes of driving time have passed. In a taxi doing dozens of short trips a day, that's a genuinely hard discipline to maintain, which is exactly why the taxis that followed it stood out from the ones that didn't. Music. Now here's what I want to be completely direct about, because a routine like this only builds trust if it also tells you what it can't do. This routine will not fix an engine that already has significant wear, scored cylinder walls, a worn timing chain, or a failing injection pump don't get reversed by better habits going forward. This is preventative, not restorative. If your diesel already has a knock, blue smoke at startup, or is burning oil between changes, this routine slows further damage. It does not undo damage that's already there. And if you're driving a modern common rail diesel with EGR and a diesel particulate filter, some of this changes shape. DPF regeneration cycles actually need sustained highway RPM periodically, which is close to the opposite of the protect a cold engine instinct, so the habits aren't a universal copy-paste across every diesel ever built. What's constant across both eras is the underlying physics. Protect the engine before it's fully warm, keep the oil clean and correctly formulated for the fuel it's burning, and don't let fuel delivery drift unchecked. I also want to grant something to the auto industry here because charity matters more than outrage. Longer service intervals and looser warm-up guidance aren't a conspiracy meeting in a boardroom somewhere. They're a genuine response to emissions regulation, engine tolerances that have gotten remarkably tight, and modern oil chemistry that really is better in a lot of ways than what Stavros was working with in 1985. The problem isn't that anyone is lying to you. The problem is that what's easiest to put in an owner's manual for a global market and what will get your specific aging engine to 900,000 kilometers quietly stopped being the same target, and nobody flagged the difference for you. There's a fifth thing Stavros mentioned almost as an afterthought. The day I asked him what he thought was the single most underrated habit. On indirect injection diesels, the glow plugs preheat a small pre-combustion chamber before the engine fires so that cold fuel can ignite reliably even when the metal around it is freezing. Most owners, then and now, treat the glow plug light as a formality. A flicker on the dash you wait out for 2 or 3 seconds before cranking the key. More habit than understanding. Stavros waited for the light to go fully out, every time, in every season, even in an Athens summer where it barely mattered. His reasoning was blunt. An engine that fires cleanly on the first crank, with fuel properly atomized and igniting evenly across all cylinders, never has to endure the extra half-second of rough, unburned, overfueled cranking that a half-preheated engine goes through. That rough start dumps raw diesel past the rings and into the oil, dilutes it, and repeats a tiny version of the same washing down the cylinder walls problem the injection timing habit is trying to prevent. It's a 5-second habit. Over 15 years and thousands of cold starts, it adds up to a meaningfully cleaner startup profile for the entire engine. On a modern common rail diesel, glow plug preheat is managed automatically, and the wait times are far shorter, sometimes under a second in warm weather. The same underlying principle still holds, but the electronics have mostly taken the decision out of your hands. Which is, again, the honest theme running through this whole routine. The physics didn't change, but who's responsible for managing it did. Music. I want to spend a moment on why this kind of routine nearly vanished, because it's not a mystery and it's not a conspiracy either. Mechanically injected diesels like the OM61 Skeen and OM61 Senin required a mechanic who understood pumps, timing, and combustion chemistry, and that kind of training became rarer and more expensive to maintain as electronically controlled diesels took over the market through the 1990s and 2000s. Shops stopped investing in dial gauges and injection pump timing tools because the newer cars didn't need them, and the knowledge simply had nowhere left to be used. It wasn't buried on purpose. It just stopped being profitable to teach, and knowledge that stops being profitable to teach tends to disappear within a generation, whether anyone intends it to or not. Stavros is in his 70s now. When shops like his close, that specific hands-on expertise mostly closes with them, unless someone bothers to write it down first. If you've made it this far, you already understand something most diesel owners never get told. Longevity was never really about the metal. Mercedes didn't build a magic engine in 1976. They built a solid, simple engine, and then an entire generation of drivers who depended on that car for their livelihood built a culture of habits around it that protected it, day after day, for decades. The 4.6 million kilometer taxi wasn't a miracle. It was a maintenance philosophy, driven by people who had every financial incentive to make their equipment last, and no financial incentive at all to let it wear out early. You don't need a 1976 Mercedes to use this. You need the 4 habits: warm idle before load, correctly formulated oil on a shorter interval than the manual technically requires, fuel delivery checked rather than assumed, and patience before you ask the engine for real work. None of it costs anything beyond a little time and maybe 15 minutes with a mechanic once a year. So here's what I want from you. Drop your engine, make, model, and current mileage in the comments, along with the oil weight and change interval you're actually running right now. I want to build a real, honest picture of what different diesels are surviving on across the world, not just what the manual says they should be running on. If you're at 300,000 kilometers and climbing, tell people what you've changed. If you're at 900,000 and beyond, I especially want to hear from you, because those numbers are proof, not luck. Subscribe if this is useful to you, because there's a lot more of this.